Secret History of Tibet, Professor Valeriy Bebyk film released by film studio Civilization Incognita for KYIV TV channel and Parliamentary TV channel RADA. I welcome you, dear audience. We are the 4,800 meters above the sea level. This is Tibet. The Tibetan Plateau is the world's highest and largest plateau, with an area of 2 million square kilometers and the Earth's highest mountain, Jomolungma, known as Mount Everest. The mountain is 8,844 meters above sea level. Jomolungma in Tibetan means Divine Mother. Here, in Tibet, there is the largest high-altitude settlement on the planet, 5,100 meters above sea level. It is a little difficult to breathe, but people live here. The West Tibetan Plateau is surrounded on all sides by the massive mountain ranges. The plateau is bordered by the Taos of the Himalayan range, to the north by the Tarim Basin, and to the northeast by the Gobi Desert, to the west by the Karakoram mountain range. The Himalayas are the highest mountains on the planet, which mean "Edo of the snow," the translation from Sanskrit. The name of the Tarim Basin derives from the Tarim River, which is the longest inland river in China. The Tarim Basin includes the Tian Shan mountain range to the north, the Kunlun Mountains to the south, and the Taklamakan Desert, which occupies a large part of the Tarim Basin. Tibet is called the Asian Water Station. The majestic rivers, such as the Yellow River, the Yangtze, the Indus, the Mekong, and the Brahmaputra rise in Tibet. The Brahmaputra River means son of Brahma, in translation from Sanskrit. The Indus River means stream from Persian, and the Mekong River is translated from the Thai language and means mother of water. The intermittent presence of humans on the Tibetan plateau has been recorded by the scientists since the Paleolithic period, that is 20,000 years ago. According to John Vincent Bellezza, American archaeologist, University of Virginia, approximately 11,700 years ago, Neolithic migrants from modern-day China were gradually replaced and partially mixed with the original inhabitants of Tibet. This Neolithic wave initially settled in the Yarlung-Zanbo River Basin, better known to Europeans as Brahmaputra, and then these people settled all over the Tibetan plateau.
Neolithic settlers from northern China might be presented a mixture of the Yangshao culture that inhabited the modern provinces of Henan, Henxi and Shanxi, and the Mazayao culture that inhabited the Upper Yellow River district in the modern Gansu and Qinghai provinces.
Neolithic residents of Tibet, as well as representatives of Chinese archaeological culture Yangshao from the Yellow River Basin, lived mainly in river valleys in the south and east of Tibet. Archaeologists have found pottery and stone tools here, stone axes, chisels, knives, spindles, discs and arrowheads. However, some researchers suggest that Neolithic tribes from Tibet may have occupied China at one time, but archaeologists refute these hypotheses.
Certainly, our archaeologists have also found objects from the Stone Age in Tibet, but they are not so ancient. For example, items manufactured in the 8th millennium before Christ were found in Henan province, and objects that had been manufactured in 5th millennium before Christ were found in Tibet. They are different both in culture and in their specific features. Thus, we can say that the center of Neolithic Yangshao culture is Henan province. It was exactly this culture that later spread throughout China.
It's worth mentioning that Yangchao archaeological culture is not the oldest archaeological culture in China, but it, like the Ukrainian Tripilian culture, had a rather high level as for the Neolithic of intellectual, technological and artistic development. The Neolithic, by the way, was a new Stone Age, dating back to the 10th, 3rd millennium BC. The Chinese scientists. European scientists said this range from the 8th to 3rd millennium BC.
Встановлюють з 8 по 3 тисячоліття до нашої ери.
Yangshao is not the most ancient archaeological culture in China. There is also the Paleogen culture. It existed from 9th to 7th millennium before Christ. The main theme of the Paleogen culture's ceramics is also agriculture. This culture had rather high level of development. We found here a musical instrument and rice that people grew. There were any states then, and people passed on their culture from generation to generation. The Yangshao culture inherited the achievements of the Paleogen culture and transmitted them to the Lunshan culture. These were related cultures.
Луншань – це споріднені культури.
A comparative analysis of the archaeological culture of the Chinese Yangchao and the Ukrainian Tripilia cultures shows the close socio-genetic links between them. For instance, it is proven by the peculiarity of housing in the river valleys, the walls of tree branches, clay with sticks and whitewashed with chalk, thatched roofs. There are very similar jugs and plates, painted in colors and tempered in the oven. The drawings and symbols of the ceramics are also very similar.
Теж дуже схожі.
The archaeological culture of Chinese Yangchao has more than 1,000 older ancient encampment. It is very similar to the Ukrainian Tripilia culture on the banks of Dnieper River, glorified as the father in the songs. Yangchao culture was widespread in vast territory of Neolithic China in the 5th, 3rd millennium BC, east of Gansu and Xinhua provinces along the Yellow River basin. The Chinese call this majestic river Huanghe, meaning the mother.
Archaeological evidence suggests that the spread of Sino-Tibetan proto-language was caused by the expansion of the Yangshao culture to the west, intervened with the Manziyao culture, which spread further to the west into the Himalayas.
На захід до Гімалаїв.
Most researchers of Neolithic Chinese and Tibetan history believe that nucleus of Tibetan nation was created by the tribes that came from the Yellow River basin, who became the ancestors of modern Chinese and Tibetan civilization. And they are very close in views to Chinese historian Juan Wenzhong, American John Bellezza, Italian Maurizio Scarpari.
The Manziyao, Banshan and Machan cultures evolved from the Yangshao culture in the western provinces of Gansu and Xinhai, in a territory that also includes part of Inner Mongolia.
І частину внутрішньої Монголії.
In general, the problems of the Tibetan nation building in view of certain historical features have remained a hidden secret for a long time. Many objective and subjective factors have caused such situation. Vast geographical distance and isolation of Tibetan civilization from the leading civilizations of the world, small numbers of Buddhist historical sources, sweeping purge of historical memory among the Tibetan people by the representatives of Tibetan Buddhists.
Тибетського буддизму, історичної пам'яті тибетського народу.
In the history of Central Middle Asia, the problems related with the creation and collapse of the Tibetan Empire of the 7th-9th centuries are the least presented. The study of Buddhism, its dogmatics and philosophy has shadowed the secular history of the Tibetan people, who have managed to maintain a leading position in Central Asia, Northern India and China for 200 years.
The decline or transformation of the Yangchao tribes ended in the 3rd millennium millennium BC. In the second millennium BC, Tibetan ancestors, Xians, still lived in the modern Chinese province Shaanxi, but they were displaced by the Yin tribes, the ancestors of the Chinese. In Han Dynasty, Xians were pushed further to the west of Sichuan province and to the northeastern regions of Tibet. In the 4th-5th centuries AD, Tanxians and Danxians were distinguished on these lands. In the 6th century chronicles recorded here by the people of Tufans, that is, the Tibetan people. In the 7th century, a monarchy was formed in Tibet, headed by the king Tsongtsen Gampo.
В Тибеті формується монархічна держава на чолі з царем Сронцзан Гампо.
The power of the Gampo king was limited by the council that in fact governed the state. The whole nation was an army. It was not subordinated to the Gampo, but to a special minister of war. But this was not enough. There was a very influential but rather small group consisted of the priesthood of the ancient Tibetan religion, the Bon.
King Tsongtsen Gampo, who had come to power in 620, founded the capital of Tibet, Lhasa, and showed himself as an excellent commander. He conquered Lower Burma and made several successful campaigns to China, Nepal, Bhutan, Assam. In the heyday of the Tibetan Empire, it controlled the vast territories of present-day Nepal, India, China, Pakistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan. In 763, the Tibetans stormed China's capital, Chang'an, modern Xi'an.
Столицю Китаю Чаньань, нині місто Сіань.
The neighbors were really scared of Tsongtsen Gampo. As a result, the king of Nepal in 639 and the Chinese emperor in 641 had to give his princesses in marriage to him. Historians believe Buddhism rooted in Tibet due to these princesses.
Корінення в Тибеті буддизму.
Unlike his ancestors, Tsongtsen Gampo didn't want to be a pawn in the hands of nobles. He killed 8 of them himself as they began to contradict him, but it was difficult for him to deal with sorcerers, the religion of Bon. He needed foreign help and he received it in the person of Buddhist monks. Tsongtsen Gampo was converted to Buddhism.
Сронцзан Гампо прийняв буддизм.
Since then, the power struggles in Tibet has taken on a clearly religious nature. When adherents of the Tibetan religion Bon came to the royal throne, the adherents of Buddhism were slaughtered. When the Drachmapalas, defenders of Buddhist faith, came to power, they commanded to death the Bon faith followers. Eventually, with the help of Bogdo Khan, Genghis Khan troops, the adherents of Tibetan Buddhism won. Meanwhile, Tibet lost its statehood.
In 842, King Langdarma was killed by a Buddhist hermit monk. Clashes and uprising began. The Tsar's power was destroyed. Tibet has become a country divided into small principalities which were in constant wars with each other.
Які знаходилися в постійних війнах між собою.
In such a way, since the 9th century, Tibet transformed to a battlefield for foreign conquerors who wanted to control the Tibetan highlands. Tunguts, Mongols, Yungars, Manchus, who possessed the Celestial Empire, periodically conquered Tibet and put their rulers there. They were called not to the Tibetan kings, but the Dalai Lama, who combined church and secular power and established themselves as Chinese emperors. The authority of Khan Kublai, descendant of Genghis Khan, who founded Mongolian Yan dynasty in the Celestial Empire and built Beijing, the current capital of China, was established in the 13th century in Tibet. However, the Tibetans have benefited from it, since Tibetan Buddhism became the official religion of the Mongol Empire.
Genghis Khan believed in Tibetan Buddhism, and after he conquered China, he supported Buddhism.
підтримував буддизм.
After the Manchurian dynasty of Imperial China fall in 1913, the 13th Dalai Lama actually proclaimed Tibet's independence. But the Chinese delegation at the peace conference, with the participation of China, England and Tibet, refused to sign the protocols. During the civil war in China, Tibet continued to use medieval laws. With cruel slavery, Tibetan slaves were owned by feudal lords, and you won't believe, Buddhist monasteries.
І ногами тибетських рабів, які були у власності феодалів і, ви не повірите, буддійських монастирів.
Following the proclamation of the People's Republic of China in 1949, the Dalai Lama, as the representative of Tibetan autonomy, was elected as the deputy speaker of the Chinese parliament. The feudal lords and superiors of the monasteries, with the support of foreign intelligence services, raised a rebellion after abolishing of slavery in Tibet. The PRC government had established a military presence in Tibet. Former slaves didn't want to support the political regime of Dalai Lama, who fled to India with feudal lords and Buddhist officials, and Tibet remained part of China. The Tibetans believe that Tibet is the center of the cosmos. Tibetan language is based on Sanskrit, language spoken by Ukrainian Tripilians. The most popular symbols in Tibet are the swastika and the meander, which at the sacral level unite the Ukrainian and Tibetan civilizations.
І меандр, що на сакральному рівні єднає українську і тибетську цивілізацію.